Okay. Hi everyone. This is Pankaj Badoni from CIT UPS. I'm assistant professor in UPS. Today we'll be talking about open source systems and the pathway to digital India. Uh, to start with the slide, I would like to quote Mr. late President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. In India, open source software will have to stay in a big way for the benefit of our billion people. And I'll be talking about this particular sentence when I'll be talking about the digital India and how the open source can uh, uh, collaborate or can help India grow digitally with its all power which open source encompasses in itself, right? So the content for the today's webinar would be I'll be talking about what is open source, the contribution of OSS to digital India, career prospects in open source. Well, when we say open source, right? So when the term open, it means open in terms of free. That is the software which is available to you. It also talks about the accessibility. It's available to you. It talks about it's not closed. Since it's open source, it's not closed. So we'll be talking about what's a not closed software. We'll be talking about those things. Reusability. We can use reusability. Change, if you want to change something. Any place and for anyone, it can be downloaded anywhere, any place, and it can be downloaded by anyone. It's not as if it's a restriction that only a set of users or a set of people can only use that particular software. It can be available to any one of them, right? But before we talk about the open source system, I want to just give you a glimpse about what's a closed source system, right? Because if we have something open, there has to have something closed. So let's look at a very simple example. When you go to a shop and you buy a certain laptop for yourself, and that particular laptop cost you around 30,000 rupees, right? If you ask that vendor, if you total ask for the breakage component of each and individual part of it, so somewhat around 5,000, it would come out to be of your operating system only. So you can see how much big chunk of amount you are giving for the just operating system part of it, right? Now consider that particular 5,000 rupees or that particular operating system, if you can have that operating system as a open source operating system, right? So for if I talk about closed source systems, so the closed source systems are those systems which are licensed product. For instance, your Windows that are bought to use. Source codes are not viewable by anyone and cannot be modified. Since it's compiled and executable source code is being provided to you, so you are not able to view it. And the examples could be your Windows and Apple, right? Now, what is open source system? What is open source? If I define open source, so generally there are broadly main four categories. If all those four categories matches, we will say that's an open source, right? So first one is if any software that you can use, view, modify and share. The first one use that freedom to use the program. It is available over the net. You can download it and you can use it for your own purpose. Download or use them for any purpose, as be it business, home, education, depending upon your scenario, you can use it, right? Second one, view. Freedom to study the source code. You can download the source code, you can download the software, you can view the source code of it, right? Modify. Freedom to distribute copies of modified program. Now, you got the software in your system. You can view it, you can modify it as per your own requirement. You can customize the software and you can distribute the copies to your friends and among your colleagues, whatever customization which you have done in your software. Share. Freedom to distribute the copies of the program to anyone, any number of people. It's not as if it will be stuck with only one person. When we talk about closed source system, comparison to when we compare this thing with the closed source system, any Windows machine which you have in your machine, you can't customize it. The same Windows machine would be, I will be using the same Windows machine and you would be also using the same Windows machine. There won't be any differences. However, if I have a closed source system, I can just modify that particular system. I can just, open source system, I can modify it as per my own use and I can distribute to any number of people. There's no such licensing constraint in the open source system. I guess I have made myself clear what's an open source system over here is. Now I would like to, a brief, if I have to differentiate between So if I look at the on the left hand side, I have certain attributes: use, view, modify, and share. So the open source, it can anywhere, right? License restricted. So if a particular software has been given to a certain set of people, those people can only use it. It can't be given to anyone. View, the source code is quite available in the open source. However, it's closed in the it's not, you can't view it in the closed source. Modify, source code can be modified, source code can't be modified in the case of closed source. Share it, if we talk about shareability, it can be redistributed to n number of people. It doesn't matter how many people you're distributing it. However, in the case of closed source, the only person who is having the license can avail the facility of that particular software, right? Now let's come to the how open source work. Now if you look at the diagram, there's certain user and developer who are writing certain codes, and they're compiling that code, and they're just giving that particular code to the another set of users and developers, and those set of users and developers again doing the same process which has been done by the previous developers. And this whole process, it keeps on going and going and going. And so finally what you get at the end, you get a very refined software, right? Very refined software which has got all the facilities which one wants. We will be talking about, we'll be taking an example of Linux operating system, and we will be using that. We will be seeing how people are collaborating for that particular software. Now these are the three main pillars of operating system open source systems. That is your code, community, and collaborate. It's not as if only one person is developing the code. It's a group of people. It's a community of coders who are coming together, who are using the mailing system, who are using the GitHub, for instance, to code, right? And they are coming onto the same platform and they are collaborating. So we can say code, community, and collaborate. That's the three main essence of your operating system, open source systems, right? Now, we were talking about the development methodology. Over here, we will be looking at, how different organizations. If you take the example of a Linux, okay, what's a Linux is? Linux is your open source operating system, which was, developed by your Linus Torvalds. He was a student in the Phoenix University in 1991, and he just took this Minix operating system. On the top of that Minix operating system, he started creating, he gave the very initial kernel of your Linux, and from that day till today, people from all over the world, you can see that there are 1,000 developers and 200 corporations all over the world. Corporations like IBM, Intel, Oracle, they are contributing extensively to the development of the Linux. So you can see, how much people want open source in the market, right? And they are giving huge amount of the changes which are being given by them, and huge percentage total. If you see, they are collaborating in the huge proportions over there. Though they have their own, what we can say, their benefits attached to it, but we won't be talking about those benefits over here. But people, they are collaborating, right? So development process. And if we talk about the patch fixing, just look at the graph over on the y-axis. You can see the number of patches, and on the x-axis you can see the kernel revision. So it starts at 2.6.11 and it spans till 2.6.37, right? So a single patch would, in Linux, when people are contributing to the Linux community, they say that every hour they get 4 to 5 patches. You can see within a single version of a kernel, they got around these much amount of patches, and these much amount of patches were delivered by the by the coders, by the communities all over the world, those who want to contribute to the open source systems, right? So that's I was talking about collaborating, I was talking about community, I was talking about code. So this is how it all works. People code, they give it to the community again, they work on it, again they collaborate, and they come up with the final product. That's why 90% of the servers all over the world, they are onto the Linux only. That's one of the reason why people are opting towards your open source. Now let's talk about certain benefits of open source. If I opt open source, if an organization opts open source, if anyone is going ahead with the open source, so what all benefits they are going to have? Availability. Now the availability is of the product. It's open source. It would be available over the net. You can download it. You can view the source code as per your own availability. So that's availability over there. Flexibility, you've got the flexibility to change the source code, to customize the source code as per your own expectations, right? It's not as if whatever the vendor has been given to you, you don't have to get stuck with it, because it's open source, you can change it. Lower cost, though, there's this misnomer whenever people say, whenever people hear that it's free, so that it means zero cost. When we say free, it's freedom. It's freedom to view source code. It's freedom to change the source code. It's freedom to multiple activities which we can do. That's the freedom we talk about. That's the free word that came from freedom. So though it won't be free, but there won't be as much as cost as the proprietary software. Let's say, in proprietary software there is a lot of licensing fee which undergoes. However, if we look at any closed open source system, there would be a certain amount of fee involved, but if I compare it, that would be very, very minor in comparison to the your open closed source systems. Continuity is one of the major problems which is being forced by these proprietary softwares. Because let's take a very simple example. A few years back, there was this Windows people. They said they want to close the system for support for Windows 98 and XP. At that time there were certain people who were having their applications deployed at that particular time on this, and they were bound to migrate. They were bound to upgrade their systems to the available systems which those proprietary softwares were providing at that time. So that's one of the main problems which is faced by the people when they are stuck with the closed source. However, when we say a group of people who are doing the production, a group of people who had opted for the open source system, there's very rare problem of your continuity, because there are people who are contributing to the upgradation of that particular software. The next one is vendor lock-in. Vendor lock-in goes hand in hand with the continuity. Vendor lock-in is nothing but when you're stuck with the proprietary software, when they want to migrate to a newer when they migrate to a newer system, they will be forcing you to migrate to a newer system of theirs, so that they can earn money out of it, we can say. But however, in the case of open source, there is a plenty of choice available for you. You are not stuck with a single vendor. There are different vendors who are providing the same sort of facility which you can avail. So I guess the problem of vendor lock-in is again solved in the case of open source system. And security, people say that it's a very bad misnomer which you can say that since the source code is available, so it would be lacking in the security. However, it's not the scenario. Since the code is available over the web, people are contributing to the betterment of the code. So down the line, it is getting more and more secure, right? So that was more of the detailed discussion on it. Well, if I look at what the industry has to say, what the survey by Northbridge and Black Duck has to say, 66% people consider open source first for the security. 55% people consider that it's more secure, that's why they want to opt it. Ease of deployment, it's easy to deploy, that's why they want to have it. Ability to scale, if they want to grow in the numbers, if they want to scale it up, 58% say they want to scale it up, they want to go with the open source. Competitive features, the features which they think that gives them an edge in the market, above the other competitors. So 43% of the people, that's why opt for the open source system. And if we can see, this is why open source is number one, and this is why your proprietary software comes at the second number. Well, that was more of a theoretical part. If I compare that whole thing with what industry thinks of it, what IT majors think of it, what people like big IT firms, you name it, and they would be having that particular thing in their mindset. So if I see, what this particular survey again by the Northbridge and Black Duck suggests, that 78% of the companies run on the open source, and it's nearly double of what was in 2010. So you can see how this growth chart of this open source it's exponential, right? It's exponential. Even within some time, it would be unfathomable, I guess I can say. That's how this particular because it's a it's because of the people who are contributing to it, right? It's not as if a certain organization is doing it, because people want to contribute into it. 64% participate in the open source projects, because since again I would be reiterating my same sentence, because of the open source, because of the all those benefits which are being provided by the open source, all those are forcing the IT majors to come over here. Industry adoption of OSS, again continuation to that particular site only, so I want to cite certain examples over here. As I said earlier, 90% of your servers, they are hosted on the Linux only. 73 million computers run on the Linux. 500 websites are opened on the Mozilla Firefox. Less than 3% don't use OSS in any way. And these are the certain facts which you can read, and I guess which motivates people to take open source. If you talk about any major enterprise, any major big company, though they would be using a certain part of proprietary software, but a major part of open source would also be there in their system. And it's just a start, my friend. This whole process, this whole thing started back in the 1980s only. When RMS, your Richard Stallman, he initiated this whole process in the 1983 only, I guess. So it's not that far we have gone, but trust me, within 10 to 15 years, you'll see what growth and what adoption industry is going to take with the open source, right? Now, who all would be benefited from open source? So, this whole donut shape structure which is in front of you, it says, 35% of the people, 35% would be the one, government agencies would be the one who will be benefited most by the open source systems. Second spot has been backed by your healthcare, medical, life sciences. Third and fourth, simultaneously, there would be automotive, there would be media, there would be financial, those who would be, again having a certain chunk of it in this particular graph. And just recall this particular slide when I'll be talking about your, when I'll be talking about digitalization, the digital India, when I'll be talking about the digitalization in India. So we'll be using this particular slide over there again, right? Now, we have already seen what is open source. We know what is open source, how the work is done in the open source. But we know that there are certain individuals who take this, who take this responsibility, who out of interest or out of curiosity, they develop certain things. But there has to have a certain hidden force, right? There is a certain hidden force which is driving this open source revolution. And what are those factors? So at the top most position is the innovation, and the second is the collaborative partnerships, third one is the development methods, and fourth one is the developer talents. So people, though if they are working in the open source, if they are working with the big companies, people from all over the world, why they are opting for the open source, why they are pushing too much on the open source, because with open source new innovations are coming. They are coming up with the new softwares, new technologies. They are coming up. You name Python, Java. There are plenty of them which can come out of this innovation only, and that's the one of the reasons which is driving open source in this at present market, right? Similarly, collaborative partnerships. People from all over the world, they are collaborating it, and they are coming up with the new ideas, and they are developing it. Development methods, new development strategies are coming up. When people from different mindset, they come together and they contribute, a new product comes into the market with a new development and new thought process. Developer talents, we will be when I'll be talking about the career prospects, I'll be talking about the developer talents. But trust me, at this go, anyone who is having all the open source, all the open source techniques, all the open source technologies in his resume, he would be the one to get a major chunk of the jobs available in the market. So back when it started, so when is this whole process of open source started, right? So people started using it because there were certain softwares which were available free of cost. And they kept on saying that, okay, why do you use open source? Because it's free, because it's free, because it's free. But if you look at the present scenario, what communities, what people all over the world around think of open source, they do not think, they do not think more that it's free. There's certain another thing which is driving the economy at present moment. So if I look at 2011, there was the freedom from vendor lock-in. I already discussed over there what is vendor lock-in. That was the first major priority at 2011, and if I compare that particular one in 2013, better software quality and sorry, and at present till date, I can say better software quality is the priority of every software company which is in the market. They want, because the market is expanding like anything, and there are people, there are software developers, there are open source software developers who are coming up with new ideas and new softwares nowadays, right? So but again, not every one of them is having that much good quality. So that's the main driving force, that's the main force which is driving, and people want better and better experience, they want better and better software quality. So that's the one of the main thing which was in 2013, and I can guarantee that is in the present, and it will be in the for next coming 5 to 10 years, because everyone wants a better software, right? If you have a certain handset or a mobile, you want it, the GUI should look good. You won't be, you don't want a shabby looking handset which is having a bad GUI. Or for instance, if I say, would you stay at a e-commerce website, for instance Flipkart, if it doesn't look like a good one, you will automatically go to the Amazon, right? So that's the whole thing which is driving the economy at present moment, that the quality of the software should be good one. Now let's come to the certain examples. I guess most of you would be using these examples in some form or other form. 7-zip. 7-zip is nothing but it's a equivalent to the WinZip, which is being given by the Windows for compressing your files. Then comes your Mozilla Firefox. Mozilla Firefox is again your web browser, which is being given by the Mozilla Foundation. Open Office is equivalent to what Microsoft Office is giving. When I talk about certain operating systems, so we have Android, we have Linux, we have FreeBSD, okay, and when we talk about programming languages, PHP, Perl, Python, Ruby, these are the certain languages which are being given, which are being offered by the open source community to us. Looking at the operating systems, Android, if I say out of 10 handsets which we see, I guess 6 to 7 handsets belong to the Android category, and this operating system is being given by Google, and it's free of course. It is creating huge amount of jobs for the new startups in India and abroad. Talking about Linux, Linux is again, it's like a brand in itself. When we say Linux, people give the example of OpenSense, automatically something which comes in the mind, it's your Linux. FreeBSD is nothing but it's your Unix. Programming languages, if you are a gaming enthusiast, if you want to contribute to the gaming industry and you're not sure where to start with, I guess I would say Python is one of the areas where you can work. If you are very good in this, web development, and you want to contribute something to you want to create something out of it, I would suggest PHP is the language for you. Before I go to the previous slide, there was this particular concept called LAMP stack. L stands for your Linux, A stands for your Apache, M stands for your MySQL, and P stands for your PHP. Linux, Apache, MySQL, and your PHP. If you have these four which I've just mentioned named, these four all are open source, right? And if you use all these four, you can come up with your own enterprise, and you don't have to give a single dime to any one of the proprietary softwares, right? So that's the evolution which open source has brought into the market. There are certain real life examples as well which do not belong to the IT industry. Like for instance, if I talk about Linux and this particularly example of Range Rover, they are all internal circuitry, all the operating system which was being designed on the Linux enabled operating system only. So everything was, so you can see it's not as if the IT people are only focusing on it, though IT people are focusing on it, but again they would be using it for this thing, automobile industry, automotive industry, for instance, in the benefits I was talking about. Okay. Now there are various amount of myths which are associated with your open source software, which you need to clear, right? If you have these myths in your mind, you should clear them before you start your career in the open source. So first one, I'll say it doesn't cost money. I've already talked about the cost part. Though it doesn't cost money, though there would be a certain amount of cost, but it won't be as much as your proprietary software. Now, second one, freely downloadable versus open source. Are they same? No. A thing which is freely downloadable may or may not have your source code to be viewable, right? But if it is open source, the source code should be available to you. That's the major difference between these two. Open source and cloud are the same? No. Open source and cloud, cloud is an infrastructure which can use open source for its development and for its deployment. The applications which are deployed on the cloud, they can be made out of open source. So that's two different technologies which we are talking about, right? Open source and enterprise, people say that open source softwares are not used in the enterprise for the enterprise level softwares. No, that's not a correct thing to say at this present moment. Though there won't be 100% utilization of the open source, but there can be, for instance, in the form of Java, there can be in the form of MySQL, there can be in the form of Linux. So there would be a little bit of open source available over there, not 100%, right? No copyrights. It's not as if the open source softwares are not governed by the copyrights. The original developer of the source code always has certain rights associated with it. So if I talk about certain copyrights, so it can be GPL, it can be LGPL. These are the GPL code was a GNU public license. It was given by the RMS back in the 1985. And there are different copyrights associated with the different softwares, right? And at present moment, what's happening in the OSS community is there's this open source initiative that the foundation which started in the 1998 only. Now these are this is the we can say the centralized body which is if a software is regulated by them, if a software is passed by them, that particular software comes under the category of your open source. So again, that's a very good thing, that's a very good concept. And if you have certain doubts or certain concern queries, you can always go and visit OSI, open source initiative, and there most of the queries of your regarding the OSS and copyrights would be covered, right? Less secure, we have already discussed this thing. Since the code is being developed by people from all over the globe, all over the world, they are contributing to the security of it. So it's not a major problem at present moment. Lacks support. Well, when it started back in the 1980s and 90s, there was a problem of the support because people used to jump from one particular technology to another particular technology. But at present moment, people are taking this thing as a job, and they are giving the software's support. Dedicated software supports are being given by them, right? Developed by the amateurs. It's not as if it's developed by the amateurs. When I was talking about the Linux case study, you saw that there are there are very good organizations like IBM, Intel, Oracle who are developing to the source code of the open source. So it's not as if it's been developed by the amateurs. And last, it's just a fashion. Well, everyone is adopting it. People can say it's a fashion, but this fashion is going to remain in the market for coming next 15 to 20 years, or maybe I don't know exactly how many years, but it will be in the market for next coming 20, 30 years. Areas to work upon. There's this problem with the open source that it lacks proper documentation. People are good in the coding part, but it lacks proper documentation. The policy management of open source is again very major problem. As you can see, more than 50% are not satisfied with their ability to understand open source security, and it's because the proper documentation is not available over there. A proper amount of support given by the owner of the code is not available over there. So these are the certain areas over where people would be working in the next coming 5 to 10 years, so that we can have a very robust system available for the people who can work on it, right? Now coming to the OSS Digital India, how OSS open source systems can contribute to the Digital India. There was this a few days back I was studying this article where this government of India has given this mandate to every one of their subsidiary government, central government and every department, that whatever software they purchase, right, if they are purchasing a closed source software, that is CSS, they have to come up with a proper explanation why that particular thing can't be done with the open source. Now, trust me, friends, it's a very good initiative which government of India has started. We are not sure how long it is going to go, but it's a very first step which they have taken, and coming in the down the line, if this whole thing is being implemented, we will be able to see a very good we will be digitally we will see a digitally empowered India, which will be a win-win situation for every one of us, right? So a digital India, how do we see it? How do the government of India see it? A program to transform India into digitally empowered society and knowledge economy. So there are these three main areas where they want to work upon. First one is your digital infrastructure as a utility to every citizen, governance and services on demand, and digital empowerment of citizens. So we'll be looking at one by one what all these are, and then we'll be talking about how open source can contribute to every one of them, right? So that will make a certain sense how, as an open source community, as a developer, as a teacher, as a coding enthusiast, any student who can contribute to it. So coming to the very first, that is your digital India infrastructure as a utility to every citizen. First thing is high speed internet, digital identity, bank account, and private space on private cloud, right? The second one is seamless integration of all the department, real-time services, financial transactions should be electronic and should be cashless, services to be delivered digitally to ease business requirements, everything, right? All those things we'll be talking about one by one. And finally, digital literacy, universal access, digital resources, all documents and certificates on the cloud, and availability of digital resources in Indian languages. Now, if you look at these brief brief goals which they have set, they want to achieve high speed internet, digital identity, bank account, private space on the private cloud. All these things would require technology at the back end to support all these things. They wanted to have every gram panchayat to have a internet facility. So all those things would require a huge amount of homework to be done on what grounds? On the technological grounds. And trust me, the huge population, the huge amount of numbers we have, and the huge amount of resources which are being available with us, if we choose open source, we will be able to deliver a very good solution to every one of them. Because at present moment, if I can say, the average age would come around 25 to 35, right? Somewhere it would be around 25 to 35. But in the long run, after 5 to 10 years, there would be more number of people who would be joining this bandwagon, and we would require a solution to be provided for them in the form of education, in the form of healthcare, in the form of, you name it, there should be a solution provided to them, right? So if I talk, so when relating these all things with the technology, so this is the answer for it. Contribution of OSS, the future of open source, a survey by Northbridge and Back, that's over the next 2-3 years, who would be the major contributors to the open source. The first one is your cloud computing. We are planning, we are saying that the data would be on the cloud, right? So the cloud infrastructure, the infrastructure which is being given by the cloud, that would be used to host the application on the top of the cloud, right? Second one is 35% of the applications would be big data. As I was talking about the numbers, right? India is a big country. India is a big country in the form of languages, I say, in the form of dialect, I say, in the form of religion, I say, in the form of population numbers, I say. It's a very big country, right? There would be huge amount of data which will be generated every now and then. We would require a robust system to put analytics on the top of it. We would require a huge amount of big data analytics to put on it, so that we can come up with a very good efficient softwares. 33% would be operating system. We are seeing a huge amount of the work which is being done in the Android market, in the Unix market, in your this thing, Linux market, and people would be, and again, it's not as if, this development of the operating system done in the open source community only. There are people like mainframe who are porting their systems on the, who are having Linux on the top of the mainframes now. So just recently in the month of April, in the month of this October, they came up with this Linux on mainframe. Now dedicated Linux on mainframe is available over there. And last but not the least, IoTs. We are talking about smart cities. Mr. Modi, Prime Minister, is talking about smart cities. He's saying that everything would be connected. Everything would be connected in the form of internet. Everything would be connected in the form of smartphones. When these handheld devices would be acquiring the data and sending that particular data to the server, we would require IoT over there. We would require, people would be coding that particular part in the Raspberry Pi. There would be tiny OS coming into the picture, and all those things are, are ruled and governed by nothing but your open source systems, right? So in the previous slide, if I see all these different things, different digital infrastructure, governance, digital empowerment of citizens, all these things can be, can be given by the solution can be provided with this particular slide. Hope I made myself clear how the vision which government of India had in mind, which they want to implement by 2018, and that can be implemented. Now I'll be talking about what Indian development, what Indians are doing in the open source community, what different Indian organizations are, how different Indian organizations are contributing in the open source community. So the first one is your BOSS. I will be talking about this particular one before, but I go to that particular one. There is this NRC FOSS, which is your National Resource Center for Free and Open Source Software. The main task is to collaborate and to come up with the new solutions in the open source market, right? So the very first one is your BOSS, that is your Bharat Operating System Solution. It's a GNU Linux distribution based operating system which is built on the top of a Debian operating system created by C.Tech Chennai. The very good thing of this particular operating system is, it is having 18 different language flavors of India. So you can see a single system which can understand in 18 different languages, right? It's in the very nascent phase, we can say, but trust me, if certain R&D goes into the picture, certain huge amount of effort goes into the picture, we can have a very good system. We can have a very good system which can, and trust me, the days are not far when we can have a BOSS implemented in every single government office, every single educational institute, and we don't have to pay huge amount of money to the proprietary software like Windows. Currently, these BOSS people, they are working on this new feature called EDU BOSS, which is an upcoming operating system focusing on the education and the students. The current version of the BOSS is Anoop. Previous to it, it was Anokha, and the latest one would be your EDU BOSS. Now the second initiative by the Indian government, and that too by a C.Tech only, C.Tech Chennai only. This is a Meghdut. Meghdut is nothing but it's a free and open source suite which is being provided by them in the cloud computing environment, cloud computing arena, right? So if you talk about auto provisioning, deployment, management, security, all those things are encompassed in your Meghdut, right? It's not as if for everything we are outsourcing our business. There are people who are working for this, and Meghdut is one of the certain example which started in 2011. We have Meghdut 3.01 in the picture, where we have graphical installation, configuration of the suite, exhaustive monitoring, metering, customization, the data. If it is in the transit phase, data which is in the rest phase, all those things are being monitored by this particular software Meghdut, and we'll be talking about certain deployment which these people have done, the Meghdut guys have done. For more details, there is this reference at the end of this line which I have given you, so you can go at this link to browse more about what C.Tech people are doing in the Meghdut community. So if I talk about the deployments of the Meghdut, So they have deployed, Meghdoot has deployed in the Indian banking community cloud. So at present moment, 13 Indian banks, they have certain applications deployed on the this cloud, Meghdoot. Similarly, Tamil Nadu State Data Center. So Tamil Nadu, since CDAC, Chennai is mainly coordinating with these people. So Tamil Nadu has certain applications, certain enterprises being deployed on these, and they are monitored by these people only. Pan CDAC cloud, we have different CDAC computing centers all over the India, and all these centers have their data reside on the Meghdoot only. Students and young entrepreneurs cloud government by the Tamil Nadu. So this Tamil Nadu government has given certain privileges to the students and to the young entrepreneurs to explore Meghdoot. They can deploy their certain applications on the top of the Meghdoot, and they can learn about the system more. And again, these all things would would increase the popularity of the system, right? This would again increase the popularity of the system, and more people would come to know about the what Indian government is doing in the digital India. Now this very interesting case study, this has nothing to do with digital India, but just look at it. These people in Kerala, they initiated this whole movement in 2001, and they replaced their 50,000 desktop from proprietary operating system to the open source operating system. Now that's a very huge transition which anyone can think of, and they approximately they saved 11 crore rupees each year just by doing this particular thing. And they also created multimedia educational content for open source platform, which helped them to save 1 crore rupees annually. Additionally, they saved approximately 25 lakhs on softwares by conducting their exams on the open source. And till date, we can say this is the single largest transition deployment which has been done from a proprietary software to a open source software, right? Now, talking about career prospects in open source, I have knowingly kept this particular PPT vacant, and it's an empty canvas which is in front of you, and you can draw whatever you want to draw, right? Let me put this thing in this particular form to you guys. India is expanding. India is expanding. Initially we used to have the service-based industry. These Infosys guys, Accenture, IBM, TCS, most of these are most of these industries are service-based industries. But in the last 5 to 10 years, we have seen a major expansion in the startups, small startups, and what all these small startups are doing, they are using all the free and open source software which is available free of cost to them, right? They're using that particular software for their own purpose, and they are coming up with the solutions to it, and they can be your budding entrepreneurs which can earn any amount of money, right? So sky is the limit for you people. It's not as if I'll say after doing a 4-year course you will be able to join Google or Oracle or any big company. But what I'll say is, if you work from the scratch, if you genuinely work from the scratch, and if you contribute to the society, you contribute back to the contribute to the GitHub, you contribute to the communities, trust me, within 4 to 5 years you can have your own Google, your own Oracle, right? That's the whole essence, that's the whole power which this open source carries in itself. People talk about Twitter, people talk about YouTube. Twitter, in and out, front end and back end, everything is on open source. Can you consider this huge website, this huge tweeting mechanism which you use, and how many millions of users are using it, right? And everything is on open source. They won't have to give a single penny to anyone. So that's the huge prospects which OSS carries in itself, right? But there are certain things which you can take from this particular session, right? And I'll say these are the certain things which you can look for when you're opting for open source. So these are the certain things which you can always look for. Now, we say open source is a open community, right? There are thousands and numerous number of projects available online. So it's up to you which project you want to choose for yourself. right? So student can join in any OSS project that fits their interest and skill. It's not as if you would be forced to do something. You have a certain choice. You want to do certain thing in the digital India, for instance. You want to do certain thing in the cloud. You pick it. You deploy full stack over there or open stack projects over there. You want to do something with the IoT. You get your own Raspberry Pi. You get your own Arduino. You get your own tiny operating system. Install it. Deploy the application. See what different things you can do. Second, the peer review. When we follow a traditional software development life cycle, so the reviews which are being done by the reviews are being done by the immediate colleagues, or the reviews are being done by the uh, 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 immediate or by the superiors. But when a person is contributing in the open source society, when he is working with the open source people, so the review is being done by the people who are very good in that particular area. So the second, the peer review process of OSS allows the student to learn through critics from the fellow developers, and they can be the masters in their particular field. The student can inspect the code and modify it, learning, right? Third, when a person is working in an open source project, he can contribute in every stage of the development process. It's not as if he will be given a certain task and he will be doing that particular task. He can take that task in any stage, and he can deliver that particular task in that particular stage. Now, what if he is doing that particular thing? If he is doing that particular thing, so how that thing is helping him? So he will be able to understand the overall structure of the overall development process of the project, right? And finally, when people, when students who take up the open source projects, when they interact with the stakeholders, when they interact with the people who are at the different locations, different countries, with the different backgrounds, and when they interact with them, so a certain things start evolving in them. That can be work skills, and that can be the communication skills. So all those things, start and they start to imbibe all those things. And again, if I say at the end of the 4 to 5 years, if you are a good developer in open source, in 4 to 5 years, you will be a very fine blend of IT. You will be having a very fine blend of IT, right? I have also given this reference to the article which is mentioned at the very end, so you can use this one to get more insights how open source can help you in this thing. But it's totally up to you what you want to do with the open source. Back in day, people used to say mechanical is the evergreen branch, right? They used to say you choose mechanical, you can switch to any of the branches. But if I compare that particular phrase to this till this date, I can say open source is the now new mechanical, right? A person who is good in open source, he can go to the cloud computing. A person who is very good in the open source, he can go to the big data, he can go to the business analytics. A person, even he is working in the open source, he can go and work in the closed source environment as well. So it's all upon you how you want to take it and how you want to give back to the society. So I guess I'm mostly done with the presentation, this particular part till now. And lastly, I would just like to say, let's code and contribute back to the society. That's it. Thank you. Okay, if you have any questions, please do let me know. Okay, these are the questions. I guess there's this question by Mr. Aditya Ramesh. How far OS is applied in the modern technology? Mr. Ramesh, if I can say, if you look at any system around you, for instance, a handheld device like a Android phone, so that particular Android phone, that Android is nothing but an open source software. It's an open source operating system which is being developed by Google guys only, and they are contributing. They are being, it keeps on updating, right? If you buy a system at one day, 6 months down the line, they come up with a new system to it. So open source is a continuous evolving process. It's not as if it's for a they are doing it for a single day, it won't be available. It's an evolving process. You talk about big data, you talk about your internet of things, smart homes, smart cities, or smart home automations. Everything is on open source only, right? And as we are seeing the digital India, Mr. Modi has said 1,13,000 crore rupees would be invested in it. So you can see the huge amount of impetus which is being given by the government, and we will be seeing more of open source solutions being deployed and delivered. Any questions? Any? Well, there's this question by Shonit Raj. How do OSS programmers get hired? So the hiring process, again, as I said, India is in a very expansion phase. Frankly speaking, I won't lie to you on this particular ground. When a first year student comes to me from the open source background, and he says he has opted for the open source, and he says which company is suitable for him, I say, do not ever say that which company is suitable for you, right? You create something out of it, and so that when you go to the market, and you say you have delivered this thing, they'll take you on the basis of that particular thing. Or you can come up with your own solutions, or you can come up with your own enterprises, right? So if I say companies like Google, Oracle, all those companies are working on this open source. Like for instance, even IBM and Windows, they have come up with their own separate wings who are contributing to the open source. So there are every company who would be contributing to it. Any company which you say, right, any company which you say, they would be contributing to the open source. But yeah, my emphasis would be you contribute, you do the coding, and let open up your own startup, and make the money yourself, right? When people come up with their ideas, generally and we are in a very nascent phase at present moment if I talk about Indian scenario. Hope I have answered your question, Sonit. Yeah, you can say it can be considered open source when it's patched with your this Raspberry Pi and Tiny OS. Yeah, it can be considered. Well, if you are interested in robotics, would OSS be helpful to me? Okay, well, if you study open source, that would be giving you the edge over all the open source softwares which are being available, right? But robotics is totally a different phenomenon, different mechanism, right? If I compare it with the mechanics or mechatronics, again, robotics would be very helpful for you for over there. If you are talking about electronics, yeah, if you go from electronics to robotics, that would be helpful over there. But programming is one of the very, very important thing which is very helpful for robotics. And yeah, if you are a good, if you have there are certain softwares like Octave which is being used for computer vision, in and this it is being developed by open source community, and which is used for computer vision, and it is used in the this thing it is used in the robotics for vision for the robots and everything. So yeah, if I want to relate it, I will be able to relate it, right? But OSS is more about the softwares. And if I talk about robotics, robotics would be mechanical, electronics, and computer science combined. It's an interdisciplinary field which we are talking about. So if you talk about if you are preferring to go for the robotics, so I'll say you take your OSS in the bachelor's and robotics in the master's. I guess I have answered Shonit. Then there's this question by Ujjwal. Do you think that OSS programs will be having demand, say, after 5 years from now, as I'll be completing engineering by that time? Right. Okay. Tell me this thing. Do you consider the Android phone to be vanished after 5 years? Or the websites, you think there won't be any websites? It's a process which has started, right? This whole process has started in the 1980s only, and people at present moment, they are extensively using open source, and the development in the open source will take place. PHP, Python, all these scripting languages. The other day I was talking about this JScript, this JavaScript. Now this European community, they are coming up with a new framework for the JavaScript only. So it will be a continuous evolve process, and you are talking about 5 years. Let me tell you, it will be in the next, I don't know, 50 or 100 years. Everything would be open source. I am doubtful for the proprietary softwares. Will they survive after 5 years or not? Hope I have made myself clear, Ujjwal. I agree. Okay, but I'm skeptical about this future after some years. Okay, it's very it's very hard to convince you. I'm not sure why it's very difficult for you to understand this particular thing, but trust me, all these languages, right, all these Java, it started back in 15-20 years, and they are in the market, right? People are coming up with new solutions on the top of that. They are, it's more of open source would be there, less of closed source. Closed source community, closed source softwares, closed source people, and proprietary software people are very much afraid by the advancement of open source. And people from all over the world, they are contributing, right? So it's not as if it is going to stop one day. Over the years, over the 5 to 10 years, if I say, I have seen an exponential growth, right? If I was talking about this, 78% have increased their work from 2010 till 2015. In the 5 years, we have seen 78% more people opting for open source. So it's not as if it is going to close one day. By the time you would be completing your engineering, I'll say there would be different I'll say softwares or different languages which will be in the market, not the one which we are having at present moment. So this is what we can say, but it won't be there that this whole development process will stop eventually. Hope I have made myself clear. Then there's the question by Subra Patnaik. On career grounds, is open source promising? Right, Subra, career grounds is open source promising. I had this vacant slide just because of this thing only, and there are students with UPS only who started their career with 8 to 10 lakhs presently working with 12 to 14 lakhs, and those kids, when they were in the second year only, they were creating the college website, they were freelancing, they were monitoring the this Thomson website of IIT Roorkee, and they were freelancing at the second year. So consider when they graduate, what they'll do. So it totally depends upon what caliber you carry. If you are a good coder, and if you can devote your time in coding, sky is the limit for you guys. I guess Manish, I have answered your question as well. What are the expected packages if we offer open source? I guess that will be the question more concerned to the open placement people. But if I say there are various range of companies which visit the college, and they offer plenty good packages. The thing which you can take away from this session is, if you have good open source technologies mentioned in your resume, you have more probability to get hired in the in huge amount of people, right? So that's the main thing, that's the main edge which is being provided by the open source to you. I was talking about, if you have open source, you can go to the cloud computing, you can go to the graphics, you can go to the gaming, you can go to the business analytics per se. This particular branch has huge horizon. You can opt any one of them. So sky is limit for you. What do you want to choose? I guess Manish, have I answered your query?
हो गया.
Sunit, do I need to learn languages like C or Java before joining OSS? Uh, well, if you have the elementary knowledge of C or Java, that will be an add-on, and that will be a good edge to start with. Well, all languages which are being mentioned which I mentioned, those are being taught in the college as well. But if you want to be very good in the open source, so my preference choice would be go with the Python. So that's one of the scripting languages which has got a huge hold on the market. Most of the scripting is being done on the Python only. Gaming industry follows it rigorously. It's being used redundantly by every one of them. Ujjwal, I would like also to know about the mechatronics stream. Can you enlighten on this, please? Well, mechatronics is not my area of interest, but yeah, mechatronics is a fine blend of this electronics and mechanical. You would be studying mechanical as well as electronics over there, and a certain component of your computer science associated with it. For instance, artificial intelligence, computer vision, all those things go into the mechatronics. So that will be that call would be taken by the mechatronics team only. But yeah, that's a more of a mechanical, and that's a blend of mechanical and electronics, I guess. Okay, Ujjwal, I guess that will do. Sonit, I guess I have answered your query. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. Thanks a lot. कैसा रहा हुआ है?
क्लोज कर दो. नहीं